good evening, and welcome to the 2018 Nova Scotia Scotties Tournament of Hearts. I'm Lisa, and with me I have curling player Corey.
Corey, yeah.
And we have Team McEvoy with us. With players on skip is Julie McEvoy, third Danielle Parsons, second is Sheena Moore, lead is Jill Thomas, fifth Mary Matatal. Coaching the team is Bruce Lonez, and they are from the CFB Halifax Club.
We also have with us, they'll be playing against Team Arsenault. So we have skip Marianne Arsenault, who many of us know has been around for many years. We have third Christina Black, second Jen Baxter, and the lead Jen Krause. And their coach, alternate also with them is Carol McLean, and their coach for this year's championship is Peter Corkum, and they're representing the Dartmouth Curling Club. Team warm-ups have just finished. Both teams just did their draw to the button. Teams are coming out onto the ice, and we're going to be getting started here shortly.
Wonderful. And while we're waiting for the game to begin, we would like to thank our sponsors, Scotties, as well as acknowledge our broadcast partner, Bell 5 TV1. For those of you at home, you can tune in to any of the Nova Scotia Provincial Men's and Women's Curling Championships on Bell 5 TV1.
Alternatively, if you want to come watch some of this live, you can come out and watch any of the draws at the Dartmouth Curling Club. To get in here for one single draw is $5 a game, so if you have a favorite team you want to come cheer on, you can always do that. Tournament passes, full event passes for both the men's and women's are $30 a piece. And if you prefer, you can actually do reserve seating. A little bit more expensive, but still only $40 for some of the best curling Nova Scotia has to offer you. Looks like the teams are getting ready here. Based on their draw to the button, Team McEvoy is going to be out first. Team Marianne Arsenault will have hammer in the first end, which is they'll have the advantage starting off this game.
Yeah, but I don't know how to bring that into Facebook.
Now, Corey, do we know what colors that Team McEvoy and Team Arsenault are going to be throwing tonight?
Yeah, it looks like Team McEvoy is starting off with the blue stones tonight. Most teams, before the game starts, there's always a coin toss, figure out who has first practice, who has second practice. Team that doesn't get their choice of practice always gets to choose their stones. So chances are one of these teams had their choice preference. Some of the rocks do differ sheet to sheet, so it's always good to know which rocks you're playing with. Where McEvoy is playing with the blue, we're going to have Team Arsenault throwing your yellow stones tonight.
Wonderful.
The game's underway here. The draw right to the top 4 foot by by Jill Thomas. Now, both of these teams tonight do have a lot of experience, specifically the Marianne Arsenault side. Marianne herself has been to, Lord, I would say at least, looks like 20 Scotties provincials, so that's just playing in Nova Scotia. She's been to 5 Canadian championships and 2 worlds, so herself, she has a very extensive resume when it comes to curling.
Very good. Very good. And it looks like Kraus is lining up here.
Yeah, she is. So far, looks like this game is going to be, first end at least, will be fairly open. No guards in play, just open hits. Next up, we have Sheena Moore throwing. Going to put some rocks back in play there.
Now, Sheena Moore appears to have quite a lot of curling experience as well, with around 20 years, and has also participated in Scotties championships in 2009 and 2010. So.
Yeah, like I said, both of these teams do have a lot of experience. I feel like every player has at least some form of Scotties experience, even if it's just at a provincial level, so this isn't their first time here. I've curled with and against many of these ladies. They're all amazing curlers.
That's excellent. Oh. Now what's happening down here?
It's like just continuing on with the strategy from the start to the end. Keep it open, keep it simple.
Okay.
Don't want to get in any trouble, so just keep the front open and just trade hits. First end, see if maybe Marianne's team will make a mistake and either take a point and give up their last rock advantage. Or flip side, Marianne waiting, see if the McEvoy team will make a mistake and set up her chance for her 2 points. Something to keep in mind at home for people who don't curl competitively. These games are timed, so if you see the players hustling up and down the ice, it's because they do only have a set amount of time to get the full game completed. If they do run out of time, they can't throw any more rocks, and that becomes a big issue, especially in a game where there's a lot of rocks in play for most of the ends. If you end up running out of time, it's a significant disadvantage.
That's very interesting.
Let's run the third stones here. This is Danielle Parsons throwing.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like Danielle has participated in the Scotties Provincial Championships 2012, 2013, 2014. Has quite a lot of accomplishments in the curling world.
She does, and she's one of the few players, especially on this sheet, who's actually competed in multiple provinces. I know Danielle personally. She was in school in New Brunswick for a while, and she actually curled with Andrea Crawford for many, many years, and represented New Brunswick on that side also. But yeah, all these women have the experience. They have the skills that can get them to the Scotties. It's just a matter of which team has that exceptional week.
Yeah.
Christina Black throwing for the Arsenault team. Again, keeping with that strategy, keep it open, keep it simple for the first end, get used to the ice. Now, I mentioned before that each team is on a timer here. So you notice that Julie was already down in the hack, ready to throw before the other stone was even had even come to a stop there. Danielle was already in the house, ready to call that shot, trying to bank some time for later on in case the game gets a little bit more, a little bit messy, more rocks in play in the next couple ends, which I think you'll see.
Very good. So players are actually allowed to bank time then to make it up later. Is that how that works for those of us unfamiliar with the game?
Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily say they're banking time per se. They're just playing each end a little bit quicker, especially the first couple. I mean, it's an overall time that you have to get from start to finish.
Right.
In those, like the ends you have to play. So obviously, if you take a lot of time in the first couple ends, even in ends like these where it's open, if you're not ready to throw, that's time that you could definitely benefit from later on. In an end where there's a lot of rocks in play, more complicated shots, a little bit more thought process needs to go into it. And actually, Julie's last shot did come up short from the ring, so it does give Marianne a chance to draw around there and set herself up for the 2 points that she's looking for with the hammer this end. The rock doesn't look like it wants to curl. It's just hanging out there.
Yeah, I noticed that a little bit, but oh.
There it goes at the end. That makes Julie's shot a little bit harder here. She's, her goal obviously is to either keep Marianne to 1 or no points, or to steal a point herself. Looks like she is going to be playing the freeze to try to force Marianne to take her single. Just a little history from their games earlier. Both these teams did get off to a little bit of a rocky start. I know Team McEvoy was playing Team Jones earlier and just came up short. Team Arsenault as well had a pretty tough game against Team McDermott. So both teams right now sitting at 0-1. This is a fairly important game for both. Want to get a win under their belts before they move on to the rest of the round robin. Actually looks like Julie's playing a hit of some sort. It's actually not the freeze.
And tell us a little bit more about that as a strategy. Is that? Oh.
So in an end like this where most of it was open, you do. I mean, ideally, you're trying to force your opponent to only get their 1 point, give up the last rock advantage, get yourself that the hammer, and try to get your multiple score. I mean, playing a freeze can be a little bit more risky. If it's not perfect, then you do give your opponent that chance to get their 2 points. So Julie choosing to play a little more conservatively, take out that yellow rock and force Marianne to try to pick this out and blank the end to keep her hammer. Last rock on the way from Marianne. See how this turns out there. And she does successfully blank the end. That's a very good sweep from Jen Baxter to make sure that didn't stay in the house. With that blank end, Marianne Arsenault does keep her hammer moving into the second. Still tied at 0-0 going into the second end here at the Dartmouth Curling Club. these teams get set up here in the second. We'll see if it's a little bit more of an aggressive end, or if they're going to keep it open again by putting the first one in the hose.
Well, that appears to be slowing down there a little more than maybe.
Yeah, no. For people who don't know how curling does work, each rock has what we call a sliding path on the, or a running band on the bottom of it. So it's about half an inch wide. It runs right around in a circular pattern on the bottom of the stone. As you throw it, when you spin that rock, it picks up on called pebble on the ice. So curling ice is completely different from a hockey ice type of surface. It's not flat.
Oh, okay.
It's almost the name pretty much gives it away. When we call it pebble, it feels like there's like little rocks underneath the ice that running band picks up on, and that's actually what causes the rock to curl. As it spins, it's picking up on little bits of ice from the pebble, pulling the rock in a certain direction. As it starts to curl a little bit more, the speed does come off the rock. So you're going to notice once rocks start to curl, that's when the speed does tend to come off of them. And so, like with that shot as well, even the guard that was just thrown there, the corner guard by Marianne's team, as it starts to curl off the center line, the speed will come off that rock. It does look like this end is going to get a little bit more interesting for us. We have a guard in play, and Team McEvoy looks like they're going to be putting up their center guard, or putting one right back in top of that to put the pressure on Marianne.
And it looks like their strategy seemed to pay off.
It did, yeah. So what we can see here, rock looks to be about almost completely buried. Marianne's gonna draw him behind her corner. She doesn't really want to get into playing Julie's game yet. She wants to try to set herself up before she goes after that blue stone that's at the top of the 4 foot there. So a little bit of a mistake here from Jen Kroos. Going through the host there. That gives Julie, Team McEvoy, a huge advantage to peel off that corner and take away Marianne's chance for multiple points this end. With them removing that corner guard, chances are you're going to see Marianne going to start defending here now. She doesn't have the chance to get her multiple points with her corner up there, her guard to come around. Her goal now is to try to get a blank end or wait for a miss from Team McEvoy and try to carry the last rock into the next end again to try to set up. Goal each end is to try to get your 2 points. If you can get more than that, great. Very nice shot by Jen Baxter.
Yes.
Again, another peel coming here. Now that guard is not a blue stone for Team McEvoy, they don't want it there.
No.
Going to peel that out of the way and go back to...
And it looks like they were successful at that, or sort of?
Sort of. They did.
Yeah.
They were able to remove the yellow rock. They weren't hoping to leave that guard there, I don't think. I think they were trying to straight peel. Because it does give Marianne a chance to go around it and put a little bit of pressure back on Team McEvoy. You can kind of hear our microphones do pick up a lot of the noise from the ice shed. As a curler who's been in a situation like this before, it is very, very hard to hear your teammates. So you're going to see some of them, like Marianne and the host on that last shot, waving her arm in the air to tell her team to sweep, because you can't sometimes hear what's going on when your team is trying to get you to sweep that rock.
Well, that must be tense, really.
It definitely can be. It's kind of frustrating as a thrower when you've thrown something quite nicely, and just because of the extra noise and the commotion going on in the ice shed, that you can't really hear. Your sweepers can't hear the call.
Now it looks like they're poised here to try and.
So with that rollout, again, it gives Marianne a chance to come back around that guard. Still trying to set up her deuce. Black getting set up in the hack there.
Okay, now it looks like they're communicating with Marianne here.
Now ideally here, you want to keep that rock above the tee line. By going behind the tee line, see Julie trying to decide either again between the freeze or the hit, where it is fairly open. Hits the safer call and keep Marianne for getting her 2 points. But if that rock would have been fully buried behind the guard and behind the tee line, it would have given her a chance to freeze down to it and take away Marianne's end. Successful hitting the flop over there. See how Marianne plays this. She draws behind. So she'll be playing a hit and roll. So kind of a dual purpose here. Remove the blue stone and try to get over and behind that guard to set up your multiple points.
We'll see if she's successful with this.
Yeah. Successful in removing the stone. She didn't get the roll she was looking for, so it does give Team McEvoy that chance again now.
I hear some action coming in from the from the ice shed there.
Yeah. That's coming over from Sheet D. Sheet D, we have Colleen Pinkney and Jill Brothers over on Sheet E. Again, a couple of very, very established teams. Teams have been around for a while. Nice little hit and roll over, partially buried behind that guard. That's the trick for Julie. Forces Marianne to draw.
So for those of us less familiar with the game of curling, when you say draw, what exactly are you referring to there?
So there's a bunch of different types of shots when you curl. So draw is you're throwing the rock and hoping that it's going to stop in play, so without touching any other rocks. So she's going to release this and try to get it to stop in the house.
Okay.
Sweeping can play a big thing. Your sweepers are great at helping guide that stone, but you're essentially trying to throw it to the house and have it stop and play. On top of you have draws, hits, other there's different types of names for multiple types of shots. So even though we're calling a draw here, you can also call it a freeze or a tap. It does the same general purpose. That one didn't look to curl up enough for her there, so McEvoy will have a chance to remove that and lie to and force Marianne to draw for her single point there, or take a point in this end and give up her last rock advantage. One of the biggest things you're going to notice, as if you're someone who isn't familiar with the sport, is before each shot, especially when it comes down to your third and your skip throwing, there is a conversation when you get down to the hack as to what weight you're looking for. If the sweepers think that the ice that you've given yourself looks right, you always want to have that conversation. The whole team needs to be on board with the shot that you're throwing, because even though as somebody who, if you haven't curled before, it looks fairly easy. Like, there's not a whole lot that goes into this game. It is a lot more complicated than a lot of people give it credit for at a first glance.
Yes, even seeing it up close, I'm actually I'm noticing a lot more details about that. Oh, now what's happening down here?
Looks like again they just got stuck in that spot. Same path Marianne took, didn't curl enough. So Julie's stone just sort of bounced off there a little bit. Does give Marianne a chance at an open hit to score her 2 points. Trading a couple mistakes here, but Marianne does have her shot for her 2, and assuming this is made, Team McEvoy will have the last rock in the third end and try to get those points back.
Now it looks like they're preparing quite carefully.
Yeah, and you'll see that throughout the game, especially if it's sort of a high-pressure shot. Sometimes the thrower will take a little bit of extra time, take a deep breath. A lot of players do have their pre-throw routine. Colleen Jones is one of those people that is very methodical for many, many years. He knew she was going to get in the hack, wipe off her, clean off her slider first, get into the hack. So after taking her drink of water, and then she would throw her stone. It's a nice throw there from Marianne. So she did pick up her 2 points. Going into the third end, we have a 2-point lead over Team McEvoy.
Now it looks like the teams are regrouping here to talk strategy a little bit. Knowing some of these, many of the players actually out here, what do you suppose? What do you suppose they're thinking coming into the third end?
If you're on Team Arsenault, it's try to keep it open, try to keep Team McEvoy from getting anything set up. You either want to force them to take their 1 point, or obviously if you get the chance, you're going to go for that steal. Try to increase your lead. If you're on Team McEvoy, you're basically talking about how it's still early. It's only the third end. Getting 2 points isn't that big of a challenge sometimes. It's sort of your goal in every single end. So just set yourself up, make a couple shots, and you'll be sitting pretty, trying to get your deuce back and get the game back on a level playing field.
Very good. And, you know, for those of us at home who might be just joining us, we're coming into the third end. My name is Lisa, and again, I'm here with curling player Corey. And we are, you know, we're broadcasting with our broadcast partners on Bell 5 TV1. Tonight's game is brought to us by Scotties, so we want to say another thank you to them.
So you notice here, again, coming back to, for people who aren't really familiar with the game, the strategy's kind of changed for each team. Notice in the first couple ends, it was Team McEvoy putting that first stone in the house, trying to keep it open, trying to keep Team Arsenault from getting anything set up. In this end, now that Marianne has scored her 2, Team Arsenault is up those 2 points. It's Team McEvoy looking to put up that corner guard and try to set up an end for them to get their multiple score.
And that looks like, no, what's happened down here now with that shot?
So that's with your lead stone. So with Jill's shots, and Julie's going to be trying to get her to set up the end. Coming back to the strategy side of things, there's a 5-rock rule in place. So you're not able to remove any of the lead stones until your second is coming up to throw. So where Jill has put that guard up, it's not in the house. It can't be removed until a little bit later on in the end. So it does give them a chance to go around it. And like we sort of discussing there, your goal each end is to score multiple points if you have that hammer. And having that corner guard up there does give you a chance to take play away from the center and allow you to get multiple stones in there to try and set up your 2 or 3 3-point end if you're trying. I'm trying a little hit and roll here over and behind the corner that they put up. Guard that Marianne's team threw. Jen Cross there. Didn't quite curl over enough. It does leave that stone exposed that's in the house.
Yep. Oh, and
rolled a little bit too far. It does still stay in play, so Marianne's going to pay some attention to that. One thing to always keep in mind, even though those stones aren't near the button, they can come back to bite you later on in the end if the rest of the end stays a little bit open. So Marianne's just going to take that out of the equation right now, and again try to keep Team McEvoy limited to their single point.
Lisa driving in from uptown. Yeah, she says it's a horrible drive.
Jen Baxter is successful in removing that stone. So again, now that Team McEvoy does have the advantage with that last rock, she will try to go around her corner guard, ignore that yellow stone, and try to get one buried in behind there and get something going here. Second stone coming from Sheena Moore here.
I scheduled myself to play McEvoy's team tonight.
Smart.
Looks like that's over curling a little bit. Didn't get past that guard.
One of the advantages of doing the schedule.
This opportunity missed there for Team McEvoy. It does give Marianne a chance to come in around those center guards now and really put the pressure on Team McEvoy moving forward here.
looks like
just going to run across the sheets we currently have in play there. Just give you folks a quick update on the scores of what's going on in case you're focusing here on our sheet. So on sheet B here, we have Team Ladouceur against Team Breen. It's like Ladouceur took her single point in the second end. They're now into the third with Breen having that last rock advantage. On sheet C, we have Team Colleen Jones against Kirsten McDermott. So a battle of two teams that are at 1-0, both winning their games earlier today. Right now we have McDermott up 2-1 with Colleen Jones and her crew having last rock in that game. And then next to us over here on sheet E, we were talking about them earlier. We have Colleen Pinkney against Jill Brothers. Looks like they're in a gridlock tied at 1 after their 2 ends, so they're into the third as well. Now on our sheet here, a couple of back-to-back heavy draws there, trying to get in behind those corners. Each team kind of failing to capitalize on a miss by the other. Christina Black trying to capitalize on that now there. Very nice looking shot if it stays above the tee line there. And it does right on the corner of the button there. So we're going to see Team McEvoy now. I think it's time for damage control here. Team Arsenault is currently lying 3. They're going to try to run that guard, open it up a little bit, try to give themselves a chance at salvaging this end with Danielle and with Julie shots still to come here.
Right. Now, what is their best chance to salvage this end, do you think?
So to start with what Danielle's doing right now, peeling off those guards, opening up the front of the house. You always want to have a path in there if you do have to throw a draw. You want both options available to you. And you'll probably see Marianne try to replace those guards just to keep it a little bit more closed, or she'll be going after the stones that are at the back there. I feel like she'll only go after that now that it is second shot. So had it spun back a little bit farther and Marianne was lying 2, I think she might have still gone for that guard, but best way to keep your team from scoring is for them not to have any rocks in the house. So
absolutely.
Might as well go for that strategy. The only downside to this is if her shooter does stay in the rings, she's almost forming a little wall back there. So if Julie does end up putting a stone there, tap that yellow stone straight back, the little yellow wall that she's now going to have to try to get that blue stone past in order to keep her from scoring multiple points.
And that doesn't sound like that's going to be easy to overcome.
Sometimes it's not, especially there's already 3 rocks back there as catchers in the back of the house. Now, I don't think Julie's playing a tap here. I think she is playing a hit and roll over behind her corner. So that wall may not come into play just quite yet. But the rock that they're about to be hitting to try to roll over, that rock's not going to be coming out of the house. It's going to be going back into that pile of granite that's at the back of the house there. Looks like that over curled on them. So even though all 3 of those stones are at the back of the house, Team Arsenault is still lying 3 points. They're going to try to put this rock in a place where it makes it hard for Julie McEvoy to make any form of a double, so to remove 2 of her stones, or in a spot where it's going to be hard for her to hit and roll over behind that corner and try to bring 2 points back into play. A first skip stone from Marianne Arsenault, up the host here. Looks like she's going to be trying to draw over to the opposite side of the host at the top of the 4 foot. keep some separation in between those yellow stones and make it a lot harder for Julie to have a spot to put her blue stone that it's gonna count as a point and be hidden and not accessible for Marianne.
Now we'll see if that works in their favor.
Very good sweep from the gens there on their front end. So it's a little bit shorter than what Marianne would have liked. It does give Julie a chance to draw in around it and almost use that as a guard, even though it is in the house. And they do have a little bit of room to play with. This doesn't have to be perfectly buried behind that yellow, especially with the other yellows in the house. It's going to make it hard to remove. Hard to navigate those stones.
Yeah, now it looks like they're talking a little bit of strategy as as we move into our next throw.
The key to this stone is if you put it half buried behind that front yellow, it does make it easy for Marianne to remove it because there is a path to get it between those two yellows that are at the back of the house. The more you get in behind this guard, the harder that shot is. So the more of this stone that's coming from Julie that they can get buried, the better in this case. It's going to make it a lot harder for Marianne to get at it and a lot harder for her to remove it without jamming on one of those stones at the back of the house.
Yep.
Let's see where this ends up there.
Yeah, now Julie is a very experienced curler, 28 years experience.
It does look like a little bit heavy, so it is coming to the back of the hose. But it is half buried and behind that, or 3/4 buried and behind that yellow stone that Marianne had thrown, and that was the disadvantage to leaving it that high, to give Julie something to draw around, trying to set up her deuce. And so it is going to force Marianne to follow that down and just draw down to it, try to take away Julie's multiple point end.
Okay, and now again we're seeing the ritual here.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. There's a lot of teams out there now that when they train, like curling itself is a very, very strenuous game, even though most people don't give it credit for that. To play an event like this and have full round robin with these 8 women's teams, each game can be a little bit grueling, especially for your front end. They're sweeping usually 6 stones a game because they don't get a break to hold the broom in the house. So on top of that, a lot of the teams, a lot of the more competitive teams, they do have sports psychologists that they visit regularly. They get into their routines. They know the importance of having a daily routine before games and having a proper warm up, and then taking that extra time, especially when you're getting ready to throw, to set yourself and to get in the right mindset. And it works for Marianne. She just made a beautiful freeze there, forcing Julie to come down and try to do the exact same to take her 1 point. If Julie's able to make this shot, it's still Marianne's still done her job. She's only given up the 1 point. She's now up a point with hammer, and that gives her a huge advantage moving into the 4th end.
Yeah. Now we'll wait to see what Julie does and how this goes.
She's have a lot of line to work with here. A little bit of space past that guard. Looks. So it's all really going to be in her weight here. The line looks really good. It's perfect. So Julie picks up her 1. She is down 2-1 after the 3rd end. Marianne will take that hammer into the 4th end and ready to regroup all over again.
Very good. Since we're coming into the fourth end, Corey, what do you know about, what can you tell us about Team McEvoy? How long have these ladies been playing together?
So Team McEvoy, this is the first year for Danielle Parsons being with them. Like I said, Danielle previously curled in New Brunswick. She's also curled with Heather Smith-Dacey and a couple other teams over the past couple of years. So they've picked her up this year. She's a pretty good addition, filling in a spot that they needed, an experienced curler there. When it comes to Julie, Sheena, and Jill, they have curled together. This is their second year for the three of them being together. Now, Jill and Sheena have curled together previously. They've been to the Scotties together a couple of times, so they have as a front end they get along very, very well. They have that experience that some other teams generally don't have if they're just sort of creating a team for the current season and don't really have plans to move into the future. But these two have played together for quite some time now. It's a good start for Team McEvoy, getting that corner guard up. Get something to go around, pull the play to the middle, and hopefully go for a steal here to try to even the score back out.
Team Arsenault is coming in. So again with the teams, of these ladies probably been playing together quite some time, I assume. And
yeah. No, like certain players on all teams really, from time to time, have a shake-up. It's very rare. Well, not very rare, I guess, but there are a lot of teams that every couple of seasons will either have one player just decide to step away from the competitive side because it can be a little bit grueling. On the flip side of that, you do have teams kind of like Colleen Jones who have played together for so many years, and I feel like a lot of it for them is they get out to just to enjoy the sport, especially now that they're like a little bit older. They are senior age. They've played in some senior championships as well, but all these girls, you don't put yourself through this unless you love the game that you're playing. I know for myself as well, it kind of carries over to you get out, have a little bit of exercise during the week, but when it comes time to get on the ice and do something a little bit more competitively, you get your game face on. It's a very nice shot from Jill, bringing it to the top of the button there. Force Marianne to come back after it. And
yeah, they don't appear to making this easy.
No, they don't. And like I said, this game, when you watch it on TV or when you watch the Brier or the Scotties, they make it look so easy a lot of the time. Yeah. It's really not. When you first start playing this game, I know for myself I was very, very frustrated a lot of the time because I always wanted to be the best at what I was doing. And the hardest thing when you start this game, if you do decide to play this game, is getting your weight down. Figuring out what direction to throw the rock is a little bit easier, and putting the right handle on it, that just takes a little bit of practice. But getting the weight down to make a rock stop that far away with precision is by far the hardest part of this game.
Very good. So now what's going on here with this?
So Marianne and her team tried to come down and freeze on top of that blue stone to try to limit the scoring area for Team McEvoy, and basically try to set up a way to remove that blue stone in a couple shots. Did look like it didn't quite curl enough to what they were hoping for, so it does give Sheena a chance to bring this draw in, try to sit top 4 or top 8, and really put the pressure on Team Arsenault, having 2 stones buried behind that yellow center guard. Looks to be just a touch heavier than what Julie was hoping for. Doesn't end up in a terrible spot, and it does force Marianne to go out and try to run that yellow rock back into the house and try to clean up some of these stones.
It's coming quite quickly there. Seems.
Yes. Mission accomplished for Team Arsenault. Just narrowly misses the stones in the house there, but no longer any guards out front to to keep them from coming in and making a play on those blue stones that are on the in the forefoot and on the button.
Now it looks like they're planning to put the guard back there, I would say. Is that correct?
It is, yeah. Right now, Team McEvoy's goal is to try to steal a point here. So they want to take a point in an end where Marianne has the advantage, has that hammer. The only way to do that is with guards up. Having an open host, especially against a curler of Marianne's caliber. Open host, open hits. She's going to make those 85–90% of the time. Maybe even a higher percentage when you have a two-time world champion throwing against you.
Oh my goodness.
It's a good-looking guard there. Sheena. So again, Marianne will be coming in, trying to open up the front, waiting for a miss on one of these guards so she can make a play at those stones. So we have a run back here. Getting out a lot of the stones in the host there. So again, a very nice shot from Team Arsenault. Does clean up a little bit of the pile that they had coming in the forefoot, but it does still give Julie a chance to draw around the thrown stone from Team Arsenault and lie two here without hammer. See how hard those rocks curl once they start to slow down. Still not a bad shot. It doesn't really leave Marianne any form of a double. It does leave her a hit and roll in behind those two stones that are at the top, or the stone that's at the top of the host, and then that tight guard there. But still a good end shaping up for Team McEvoy right now, lying two, forcing Marianne to chase them. That rock just didn't seem to want to curl for them, so with that roll away, it does give Julie either a chance to eliminate that yellow stone or draw behind that yellow guard, make this shot a little bit better, make it put it in a spot where Marianne has no choice but to try to chase her and really, really, really put that pressure on, going for that steal descent.
Now what's going on now with this here?
So they had to wait for this one to start to catch its curl. It seemed to be just sort of floating a little bit outside on the way up the ice there. Was a little bit heavy, so that could have been the reason why it didn't catch its curl as early as some of the other rocks, but did still stop in the host, so they are still lying there too. Marianne is going to be chasing it here. Again, trying to limit any stones in the host of Team McEvoy's, but also trying to score her points. Did think about going for the draw there, put a little bit of pressure back on Team McEvoy, but that is a little bit risky if they aren't able to make that shot perfectly, because they are leaving two blue stones in the house, and if they were to miss that draw, that gives Team McEvoy an open shot at drawing a third one in there, and then you're in a lot of trouble if you're Team Arsenault.
Yeah. That'll be interesting to see how this goes for them.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Just over curled, rubs that guard over, still leaves the guard in play, and now we have been talking about Julie has that chance to get one top 4 buried behind that top blue and really make it hard for Marianne to have a chance at scoring this end.
Now it looks like they're preparing very carefully.
Yeah,
for
Julie's
this next
turn
shot.
for her pre-shot ritual. Clean your rock, stand up, realign yourself in the hack, and deliver that stone. See where this one ends up. Does come up a little bit short here, so it's not ideal for Team McEvoy. This gives Marianne an out here. She has a couple options. She can try hitting that front one, making a double, and then hopefully her shooter will spill into the host there and lie 2, where she does now have the chance to draw around the guard that Julie just put up there, and again put a little bit of pressure on. It does look like she's going for the hit, which is a little bit safer, especially being up 2-1 already, but does have some options here when it comes to how she wants to try to score her points this end.
Now, when you say safer, how much safer of a strategy are we looking at here?
Well, it's all really in how many rocks you are comfortable with the other team having in play. So right now, Julie does have, Team McEvoy has 2 blue stones in there that are counting. Marianne is 3rd shot, so if you are able to make this double, you're going to be, and you are able to spill into the host, then you are lying 2, whereas if you draw around, I mean, the payout for drawing around could be a little bit better because Julie may not have a shot to chase you in there, but if she is able to make a freeze and take away the shot you've just thrown, you're limited to only scoring 1 point, where here, if you do make this double or do open up the front there, you do have a possibility for getting your deuce. Does look like Marianne was a little bit wide here. It's coming up the ice, and yeah, it does tick on that yellow guard, so missed opportunity for Marianne. Does leave Julie the chance to draw in behind the 1 blue guard that's still left out there, and we'll see if by chance that is made, then Marianne will have an open draw to hopefully limit the damage and take her point, go back up 2, heading into the 5th there.
Yeah. Now you say if by chance, so you make that sound like that's a particularly difficult shot to make.
I mean, for myself, absolutely. For these ladies, drawing to the 4-foot is a fairly common occurrence. But again, it's one of those things where anything is possible. You want to make this shot as best you can, get behind that guard, hopefully be top 4 or full 4-foot, and limit Marianne's scoring area, because if it is buried, she's not going to have a hit to play at it. She's going to have to make an open draw, and that, like an open draw to the 4-foot when you're throwing against any number of points, it's always a little bit nerve-wracking than when you're throwing in practice or just throwing a draw to the button with no other rocks in play.
Absolutely.
It does look like this is hanging out a little bit there, trying to make it curl there.
Oh.
It does look like it's fully open. Marianne may have a path into it, but she will have the option there of playing like a soft weight tap or a soft weight hit to keep her shooter around. Or she could also, don't know if the angle is great for her to make the double and keep her shooter, but that is an option as well. Even if she was to make the double and roll out, she does have that 1 yellow stone over in the 12-foot that will still count. It does look like that is the plan right now. They are lining up that double. This is another one of those situations where you almost do a risk-reward analysis before you go down to throw that shot. If you make it, your reward is 2 points. If you miss it, worst case scenario, you're giving up a steal of 1. You would still be in a tie game with hammer coming into the 5th. Not a terrible situation. And there is also like a middle ground there as well. So if you make the double but roll out, you're still scoring your 1. So worst case here, if the double isn't made, it could be a steal of 1 for Julie, or just a single for Marianne. It did overcurl a little bit. See if it stops here. Time, and it does. So looks like Marianne will pick up her single point, take a 3-1 lead moving into the 5th end. It's a small victory for Team McEvoy. Only giving up the 1, get back within striking distance, being down 2 with hammer coming into the 5th.
So it looks like Team McEvoy still has a chance here to catch up.
Oh, absolutely. This is a 10-end game. It's each end you go in with the mindset. If you have hammer, try to get our 2. If you don't have hammer, try to take a point, try to steal a point. Now that McEvoy has the hammer back, if they are to score their deuce here, they're going into the 6th end, second half of the game, completely tied up. It's a brand new game, and be a small victory for them, because especially on that end, they were set up fairly nicely to try to steal a point there. Marianne did make a nice shot. Their sweepers saved her on that one, keeping it past the guard, and she scored her point.
Very good. And coming into the second half of the game, again, for those joining us, we want to again thank our sponsors, Scotties, and as well acknowledge our broadcast partner, Bell 5 TV1, because you can tune in at home. As well, you can certainly join us. Come out and see the matches. At the Dartmouth Curling Club. 15 Canal Street off Portland in Dartmouth.
We here all week. There's multiple draws each day. We do have multiple events going on as well. So all of our sheets tonight have our Scotties play down qualifying teams here. The Deloitte Tankard is also still going on this week as well. So draws rotate daily. So all the best men's and women's teams are here this week. There is some seating out on the ice shed, so if you do come down, you can get daily passes or tournament passes, and if you prefer to stay warm, obviously there's seats inside. But no, for me, if I was out there watching, I want to be right on the ice. It's a little bit cooler, but you kind of get the atmosphere of having 4 live games going on all at once.
Very much, and it looks like there's a lot of energy going on in the down on the ice right now.
There is. There's all the teams. This is the biggest event of their season. For one team, the team that wins it, they will have obviously one event that's a little bit bigger scale than this. But this is what you practice for all year. This is what you train for. We play events the whole first half of the season to hopefully be peaking at the right time. And this week is the week that they all focus on from the start of the season, and even for some of them, the season before. Once this play down is done, some teams reshuffle, some stay the same, but they do start training right away for their next season.
That's very tight. Now, what would a team have to go through in order to qualify, for this championship?
So there are regional. It's changed a little bit over the last couple of years. So in my experience, there are qualifiers coming up to the event. A certain number of teams from each qualifier or each playdown do move on to the Scotties playdowns. There is a way for you to qualify based on your CTRS points as well. So the Canadian touring system that's out there playing events across the province and across the country, you can qualify that way as well. But in the end, it does generally end up being the 8 strongest teams that represent the men and represent the women here at the playdowns. And basically the way that it does work is those 8 teams, they do play a full round robin, so you're going to face everybody at least the one time throughout the event, and then the top teams do move into a playoff bracket of sorts with ultimately the top team or the team that has the best week representing Nova Scotia at the Scotties and at the Tankard later on this year. And for all these ladies, the Scotties itself is actually going to be at the end of January. It's January 27th to February 4th. It's going to be in Penticton, BC. So that's actually a big thing for these girls. Like anybody that qualifies, to know that you're heading to BC is always an exciting thing. Anywhere really, even who is in the province, you still get the chance to wear the Nova Scotia flag and represent your province at an event that not a lot of other people can say they've had the chance to attend. So that'll be an honor I know for me, if I was to ever practice enough to qualify, it would be an honor. So I'm sure they feel the same.
Absolutely.
Getting back to the action here, we have Sheena Moore throwing Team McEvoy. It looks like Marianne is lying 2 at this point. Trying to remove some of those stones and get him behind your guard. So remove one of the yellows. Now Team McEvoy is lying 2 and 3. So Marianne is going to go after that back blue stone, the one that's open, just to limit the blue that's in the house. Stone coming from Jen Baxter there. Mission accomplished. That blue rock removed, yellow rolling just a little bit too far for second shot, so it does give Julie a chance to come at these rocks that are at the front. Had Marianne been first and second shot, you may see a little bit of a different strategy, but definitely open up the front. Try to keep your shooter in play so you have something to use a little bit later on, but open up the blue and the yellow stone that are in behind that guard so you can come after them with your next shot. Quite curl up for them, so they just peel it out. Marianne's going to go up and try to put that back in a better spot so that there's really no access to those stones at the top of the 8-foot and top of the 12-foot there.
Yeah, and again, very precise on where she wants that from the looks of things.
This game is definitely a game of inches. A perfect shot and an average shot. The scaling, the difference between an average shot and a perfect shot, sometimes just an inch or two. You see that with this one. So where this rock does look like it's over curling a little bit, they do leave access for Julie to get into those 2 that are in the house. Gonna make a play here, and I think Marianne would really wish that the guard that was just thrown would be about 6 inches, maybe a foot to the left of where it ended up there, just to take away this shot for Danielle Parsons. Actually a pretty good result for her. The raised rock squirts over and behind that guard. It's going to be hard for Marianne to get at that one. Shooter does stay in the ring, so it's something that Marianne does need to keep in mind. It might not be second shot right now, but it can be used a little bit later on if she's not careful, to Julie's advantage. It does look like she will be making a play on it right now, try to roll them behind those rocks at the center there. The hit, see if that roll gets where they're looking for. It's a pretty good attempt at it. Hit and rolls are outside of freeze. They're one of the most precise shots you have to try to make. So it does look like it's just under half open. Julie will have a play at it. Just play like a quiet hit weight. Remove that yellow stone and then try to roll across the rings towards the other yellow to make it harder for Marianne to remove it afterwards.
Yeah, now what's going on down here now?
So with the ice, again, where we mentioned it was kind of pebbled, sometimes dirt and debris can either come off your broom or off your shoes, and it stays on the ice. If the rock picks it up, it's really not a good thing. So if any debris is on the bottom of the stone and it does pick up when it's coming down the ice, you'll actually see the rock change directions or slow down drastically. It's what we call, quote unquote, a pick. And they can really change a game. They're unfortunate, very much unfortunate, but they do happen. So Danielle must have seen something sitting on the ice in front of her there, and wanted it removed before throwing, just in case she was going to be sliding across it and it picked up on the bottom of the rock.
Well, in a game of inches, that sounds like it would be rather important.
It is. Like something picking on the bottom of your rock. Sometimes it really does nothing. There can be debris there and it just kind of runs as normally as any other stone. And sometimes they can take a complete left or right hand turn and completely change the trajectory or the path that the rock was taking. Tough luck on Danielle's last one. It just didn't seem to curl up enough for her there, so she did roll out, giving Marianne a chance to run that front yellow guard straight back at the only blue stone remaining in the house there for Team McEvoy. She's able to make this. Probably see Julie try to come around the one that Marianne's about to throw, and try to produce 2 points with her last 2 stones. A tough result for Marianne. She seemed to throw that really well. Did curl up at the last minute to get that run back, but the blue stone that they were trying to remove kind of caught. It jammed on that yellow one that was at the back of the 12 foot. So it does give Julie a chance here to draw a second one in, create some space in the house, get that behind a guard, and they make this perfectly. They'll be lying 2 in pretty good position, and Marianne's definitely going to be chasing at this point to try to keep Julie from scoring more than her 2 points. That's where that game of inches comes in again. Looks like it's such a nice shot when it gets to the house and when you're raising that stone back and you hit it at the wrong angle, even just an extra couple millimeters in the wrong spot. It goes in a direction you weren't expecting it to, and not the result you were hoping for either.
No, so she's lining up very carefully now.
Yeah. First skip stone on its way from Julie McEvoy. Gonna draw behind this yellow guard and he said put that pressure back on Marianne. Line looks pretty good. Past that guard. It's a very good spot. Now the key to these shots is again keeping it above the tee line. You don't want that to go behind tee and give Marianne something to freeze down to take away your multiple points. Keeping it above the tee line and mostly buried behind that guard is forcing Marianne to hit that open blue one, just limiting the number of stones that Julie has in the house and hopefully keeping her to just her 2 points here.
Now those 2 points would be the best case scenario in that instance, is that?
In this case for Marianne, absolutely. Julie set up, if Marianne was to try to draw around those, or make a play at the blue that's at the top of the 4 foot and say wreck on the guard or throw just a touch too heavy and scoop past that stone, then you leave Julie a chance for 3. By playing this open hit, the most Julie's going to be able to get is her 2 points. And I mean, in an end like this where it did kind of go back and forth, we'll miss unfortunate shots on either side. I think Marion would be happy right now in this case, just giving up the 2. On the plus side for Marion is she's going to be taking the hammer into the 6th end, into the 6th end. This is the 5th here. The whole idea with this game is to keep hammer in the even ends. You want to have hammer in the 10th end when the game is coming to a close. Even if you're down a point with hammer, the whole idea is you should be able to get your 2, and that would give you the win in the long run. So even if the game is close, based on the way the game has been scoring so far, if they just keep trading their points, Marion will end up having the hammer in the 10th end, which is the most important to have that last rock advantage in. Comes Julie's last rock. Always a good sign when your sweepers are just lightly cleaning that rock. It means your weight's pretty close. As a skip, if they're not putting a broom down to you, kind of hold your breath a little bit. Then once you see them start to clean it, it's like a weight's been lifted off you.
I can almost feel the relief here.
Yeah, so it's a very nice shot from Julie. She picks up her 2 points. At the end of our 5th end here, we do have a 3-3 tie between Team Julie McEvoy and Team Marion Arsenault. They will take their the 5th end break now, so each team does get a little bit of a reprieve. They get to rehydrate, talk some strategy, and basically regroup for the second half of the game, come up with their game plan on how they plan on approaching the 6th end onward.
Very good. Now, given given the 2. Oh.
What's next? Because this is the second.
All right, and it looks like we're coming back from the break here. Teams are coming into the sixth end. Again, for those of you tuning in, we're broadcasting on Bell 5 TV1 for the 2018 Nova Scotia Scotties Tournament of Hearts at the Dartmouth Curling Club on Canal Street in Dartmouth. This is sponsored by Scotties. We want to just say thank you to them. It looks, right now we're 3-3. So it might be a very interesting second half of the game. Is that correct, Corey?
Yeah, it's shaping up to be a pretty good game. Both teams have been playing fairly well. There's been a couple misses on both sides, but it could be chalked up to nerves, just not maybe reading the ice in the first half of the game. So both teams had their fifth end break, get a chance to kind of chat, talk about if there were any spots on the ice that were giving them a little bit of trouble, and then get to go back out there and try to come hard in the second half of this game.
Now, with the ice conditions, how does that influence, the movement of the rocks and how some of these different strategies come into play?
It definitely plays a big part of the game. This ice is probably going to be some of the better ice that they're going to play on in the run of a season, because there's a lot of ice maintenance that goes into prepping for an event like this. But when you're playing on club ice, there's a lot of frost. The conditions do change from end to end, especially depending on how many teams are left out on the ice, how warm it is. Temperature outside also plays a lot into it as well.
Yes.
So right now with just the 8 teams out there, not a lot of spectators out on at ice level, the conditions should stay pretty much the same for the majority of the game. They will get a little bit can get a little bit trickier coming into the 8th, 9th, 10th end. Once the ice gets worn down a little bit, we'll need to throw a little bit more weight. Sometimes if the slide path is straightening out or flattening out a little bit, they do get a little bit more curl. So something to keep an eye on when you get into the 7th, 8th, deeper into the game.
Very good. Now it looks like there's some interesting things happening on the sheet.
So it looks like it's based on Julie scoring her deuce in the 5th end. I believe we have it incorrectly on the screen. So Marianne Arsenault actually does have hammer this end. Julie scored her 2 points in the 5th end. So keep that in mind as this end progresses. Marianne does have that last rock. If we get that switched over, that's perfect. So with Julie putting up that center guard, it does give her the chance to get a rock in behind there and force Marianne to follow her in. With Marianne's last shot there, removing that blue stone, keeping 2 in the house. Now it's Julie's turn to kind of chase a little bit with Sheena's shot here. Try to limit the yellow stones that are in the house and set something up for her to try to come for that steal.
Oh.
She successfully moved it. Didn't get that yellow one at the back. I don't necessarily think they were actually playing the double. I think they were trying to hit and roll behind the guard, but does give Marianne a chance to play the same shot. She is taking a different turn, so she may feel there's a little bit more curl here, a little bit more predictable with this path. So we'll see what happens with that. With Jen's shot here and Marianne's shot, their turn choice just coming a different way here. Looks like they just missed the roll. Maybe needed to sweep that a little bit earlier, but it came pretty nicely from Marianne, so maybe a good choice going with that different turn. Just see a different path and not give Julie a read on Jen's shot there. So Julie's coming back to the turn that they've been playing the majority of the game. Trying to, again, to get that hit and flop in behind that guard and get Marianne chasing. And it does look like it's a little bit inside here. See if they can get it by. Just rubbed off that guard.
Now, getting to know some of our players a little bit here. Again, Julie McEvoy, 28 years experience. That's huge. Currently a resident of Dartmouth herself. and looks like very recent participant in the Canadian Scotties, 2017, and went as 5th for Mary Matatall.
Yeah, so the Matatall team, very, very strong team. They went a couple years ago to the Scotties, and Julie had played in that championship as well. They picked her up as their 5th player. You never want to go to a national championship without an extra body, especially if you've qualified as 4. So someone with Julie's skill and her ability, it was a pretty much an easy choice for Mary to ask her to go along with her that year.
Absolutely. Now, outside of curling, Julie works as a biomedical technologist. That's quite a change.
It is. It's curling is one of those sports where I don't really know. You don't have to have a set occupation or a set skill set outside of playing to enjoy the game and to improve at the game. It's one of those things where it's pretty much for anyone. So I mean, when you just taking the occupations for the 8 players on the sheet, you have people like you said, a biomedical technologist. Danielle Parsons herself is an interior designer at Kent Building Supply. She designs bathrooms and kitchens and that type of thing. And even when you get into to some of the other players that are on that team with Sheena, she's an architect, and you have Jill Thomas, who's an egg producer. So occupations all over the place. Like I said, you don't have a set skill set or a set outside skill set that you carry into curling. It's just really a love of the game and the desire to actually put the work in to improve and to play at a level like this, or even as a club curler, just to get out on the ice and enjoy yourself.
Now, in terms of Team McEvoy and Team Arsenault, would they have had prior experience playing each other at other matches?
Almost likely. There's a limited number of women's fields here in Nova Scotia, and a lot of these ladies do play multiple nights and some at different clubs. So you do have exposure to these teams throughout the season, and even in the qualifying events, you'd probably play a handful of them in those also. So I'm sure this isn't the first time these teams have played against each other. I do apologize for that. There's some announcements going on in the curling club here. Kind of took us by surprise.
8996.
Looks like it's a 50-50 draw.
Yes.
Getting back to the action there, Danielle's lining up here. Marianne's team Arsenault, is lying 2 yellow there, so Danielle's looking to, I believe they called cross host, hit and roll, just to kind of get close over to that other yellow. So we'll see how this ends up there. Not quite enough of it, but still removing that yellow rock, limiting the stones that are in the house. Marianne's going to replace it, keep as much separation between those rocks as possible, make it harder for Julie to make some form of a double or make a play at removing more than one of them.
Yeah, and speaking of Marianne as well, like again, we know, she has extensive curling experience. Participated in other Scotties championships. Competed in national mixed doubles. And outside of this, a mother, professional, very, very interesting player with a ton of experience. And coming down the team, like even looking at, Christina Black, a little bit of a little bit less experience, but still a great curler. Proud Cape Bretner.
She makes that very known.
Yes, very much so. We also have Jennifer Baxter, who's also made two different appearances at Scotties Nationals, and was also the winner of one provincial mixed championship.
I actually played in that provincial, like the mixed doubles against Jennifer that year. Her and Mark Dacey, they played together. That was kind of an experience all on its own, getting to meet, we'll say, kind of like a legend in Nova Scotia curling with Mark. And someone who, like, playing with Jen, who's around my age. She's younger than I am, I believe.
Yeah,
No, same age as I am. She's 30.
30,
So having the experience of Mark Dacey and the youth of Jen Baxter was really cool to see. And you actually see that kind of on a lot of these teams. Marianne's a veteran to the sport. And like the other players with her, like Jen Crouse, I believe, is late 30s. But even then, it still has brings a youth to the team that picks up with between Christina and Jen Baxter as well. So to kind of get back to what you were saying about Marianne and really about all the players, like their lives outside of here, you almost forget sometimes, especially when you're watching curling competitively, that these are normal people outside of being on the curling rink. So like Marianne pointing out that she's a very proud mother, that's a big part of her life on top of curling. So like all of these players, and any player in any sport really, it's they all have that backstory that come along with them that make them an individual on and off the ice.
Yeah. That being said, it does look like curling does take up a lot of, like a lot of the spare time because of the extensive training and, different championships and matches and what have you. I notice here, I'm going to embarrass Marianne for a moment, but her hero growing up was Rick Lang. And it says she was lucky enough to be coached by him at the Continental Cup, and apparently made him blush. So that's.
Yeah, it's when you think about just getting to go to any type of event, even if it's bigger than like a provincial event here, like at the Scotties, the experience you gain there is it's top notch. It's one of a kind. And you take someone like Marianne, who's been around the game for so long, and she was such a prominent force when she was curling with Colleen Jones when they were at the Scotties and when they were Team Canada and attending the World Championships. Even for her, getting to go to an event like the Continental Cup and meeting someone like Rick Lang is, in her mind, it's a milestone for her. Even though she's won a world championship, 2 world championships, just meeting someone who you've seen on TV and you've watched curl for many years, that is a highlight for her. So it's kind of fun to get to know the players, and especially for myself, where I've been around the game for a little while now. I've met some of these women off the ice, and the personality they have off the ice, you don't really see it while they're curling because they're in game mode, but they're definitely they're all great people. They put a lot into their training, a lot into the sport itself, and like you said, it's not. When you're playing at this level, it's not just I'm going to go out once a week and curl. You're on the ice 4, maybe 5 times a week, even just throwing for an hour, trying to fix things with your release, and just throwing stones over and over and over again to try to fix things and to try to work on your game.
Very intense. Now, what's happening here in terms, back to coming back to the action?
To the game. So it looks like Marianne is set up to take her 2 here. She does have one buried behind that blue guard. She's about to throw her the last stone of the end here. Just needs to draw to the full 8-foot or bite the 8-foot to get her second point. Trading some hits back and forth. Team McEvoy just not being able to get that stone to roll over and behind the guard or make a play at the one behind the center. So open shot here from Marianne. Let's see if she is able to capitalize on this and take her 2 points and a 2-point lead moving into the 7th end.
There appears to be a lot of action going on here right now with the this.
Just a light sweep for those two. They must think the weight's pretty good. Again, it's that good feeling as a skip when you see your brushers go up and down on that rock, sweep a little bit, then let up. It's always like I said, that weight coming off your shoulders as a skipper, any thrower really, knowing that your weight's close, line's good, and like you saw there, Marianne did pick up her 2 points, so she does take that 2-point advantage moving into the 7th end. Up 5-3 over Team McEvoy here. Quick regroup for both the teams, and they'll get right back at it.
Now, what do you think, that Team McEvoy's strategy would be, coming into this, now that Team Arsenault is up, up 2 points, is there still, do you think that they can still close the gap?
Oh, absolutely. There's still 4 ends left here. It's definitely not over by any means. Like I said earlier, your goal each end is with hammers to score your 2 points. So from Team McEvoy here, it's get up a couple corner guards, get some rocks in play, put some pressure on Marianne, and ideally just leave some space for Julie's last couple shots to try to capitalize and score your deuce, even the score up again, and then try to put some pressure on Marianne in the 8th end and try to get that advantage in the even ends. We talked about that earlier. It's a huge thing to have hammer in 6 and 8 and 10, especially when you're playing a 10-end game. That having that last rock is almost like an extra tool in your pocket when the game's coming to a close.
Well, it sounds like having that extra rock can really make or break the game, depending on how it plays out.
Yeah, more just having the last rock. Each team still throws 8, so the number of stones in play is exactly the same. It's just when you have the last rock advantage, you're almost controlling the play, because curling itself is very much like chess on ice. So you're always thinking 2 or 3 shots ahead as to what your opponent is trying to do. So even though Julie's down 2, her goal is to score her 2 points. She needs to keep in the back of her mind that once they get to Jen Baxter's shots, Marianne's going to start peeling those guards away. So get 2 up, try to figure out in 2 or 3 shots where you're going to put your next one. You may have a draw around the yellow that Marianne's team just put there. You never know. It's always, like I said, it's back and forth. Just kind of like that, like a chess game. As a skip, I know for myself specifically, when you're done a game, even though your brushers have been sweeping and they're physically exhausted, as a skip, you're normally mentally exhausted, because there's never a moment during a game where you're not focusing on the other team's shots, your shots, or a strategy of some sort.
Yeah. Absolutely, and the skip, for those of us who are less familiar with, with curling, I mean, effectively are responsible for the strategy of the team and how that plays out. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I mean, the strategy, the overarching strategy for a team, I think you normally have a game plan going in, and the regroup after each end. You do sort of talk about as a team what your goal is the next end and what you would like to accomplish. So even though it's Julie down in the host calling each individual shot, as a team, they've decided beforehand what their game plan is, and like they put up their corner guard. Marianne is lying 2 right now, but they're still trying to get in behind that guard. That's the only way they're gonna be able to score their multiple points. To stick to that game plan, and I mean, if you miss a shot here, miss a shot there, and it gives Marianne a bigger advantage in that end, then you change your game plan as you go. But you kind of have to stick with that. If you veer away from that, then sometimes your team's almost put your team at a disadvantage, because then not everybody's on the same page.
Absolutely.
Like I said, with Jen's first, they are going after that corner guard, so this is something that Julie would have probably planned for. And same with Marianne. She knows Julie's going to be putting up some guards and trying to get some rocks in play. So each of them, again, trying to outthink the other and try to work themselves into some form of an advantage strategy-wise, or waiting for the other team to make some form of like even a mental mistake just with their strategy. It does look like they'll be putting back that corner guard. Again, it's the best way for them to score their multiple points, have something to go behind. It's taking a little while to come off the center line, so it's not curling as much as some of the others have. See if it finishes well for them. It's not a bad spot. It still covers at least half of it. Makes Marianne make a play at the guard instead of trying for the one back in the house.
Yeah, now it looks like Marianne's eyeing some of that open space there to see if they can, is that correct?
Yeah, she is. So with Julie having last rock, well, really in any end, your goal is to control the front of the house. If your stones are sitting there, it's a lot easier for you to use them to your advantage than to have the other team's stones there, because it's sometimes scary to be running the other team's stones into the house as opposed to using your own. So a little bit of it's like a miss from what Marianne had called. Looked like she was trying to get a hit and roll over there towards the center. So she does leave a corner up for Julie to draw in behind, and the stone that they did raise back, that blue stone, is now staying in the house and does look like it has stopped for second shot or for shot rock. So advantage right now is to Julie. If they can get a nice one in there behind that yellow corner, they'll be line 2, and Marianne's back to chasing them.
Right.
As an aside for anybody watching, like the teams that are here representing Nova Scotia from various areas in the province, and curling itself's grown a lot over the last few years. I think the Vancouver Olympics, having it in the limelight and being in Canada, did a lot for the sport. So if anybody is ever interested in trying, most curling clubs do have a learn to curl program, or just like a fun night every once in a while for you to go out and try it. So it's one of those things where, if you like what you're seeing here on Bell TV1, reach out to a local curling club. They're all over the place. There's a few in Halifax, a couple over here in Dartmouth and Sackville as well, and just get out and experience the game. Even try it. I know for myself, I used to just book a sheet of ice at a local curling club and take some friends out to get them to try it. Because I've curled for years, but it's all about getting people out and showing them that it's actually a little bit more of a workout than you would give it credit for. There's a lot more to curling than first meets the eye, for sure.
I think that's quite a common misconception about the sport. Looking at it a lot closer and and seeing the action and seeing the focus and the concentration is much different sometimes than watching the televised matches. So again, like it is great to come out to these matches and and to really take it in firsthand, I think.
And it's also there's a certain appeal to watching something live as well. When you watch it on TV, like, yes, you have your commentators and you can see what's going on, and they're sort of giving you an explanation. When you're here live, there's 4 games going on all at once, and it kind of pulls your attention in different directions. There's never really, we'll say, a dull moment, because there's always a shot happening on a sheet. So even if the game that you're really interested in doesn't really have anything going on, they're just talking strategy, you can look in any direction and there's a rock going down the ice, so you can kind of track and kind of get an idea of what's going on between other teams.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of strategy and coming back to the the action going on currently in the game, it looks like we have some stones out front here.
We do, and it looks like it was a little bit of a miss from Danielle. She overcurled a little bit, might have been a little bit light on that last shot. She was trying to get in behind that yellow to get a second rock in play after Marianne picked out the blue that was on the other side of the sheet. It does leave an opening for this shot here, so very nice run back from Christina Black. Now Marianne's team is lying the 3, and Julie's back to chasing and around that corner guard. Not a terrible situation where the one that was raised in is behind the tee line. So if Julie is able to freeze to it, she will still be above tee, which is ideal here. This is a very important shot coming from Danielle here. If they miss this, they're going to be in a little bit of trouble this end.
Now it looks like they're at least sort of confident here.
They're staying close, so it does look like it might be a little bit heavy, but line is pretty close. And it does just rub off it, so pretty good attempt. It's fairly open. I think there's only a sliver of that rock that's hidden in behind the blue guard that's there, so Marianne will have a play on it. But I guess the benefit to that shot is Julie's now seen that path a couple times, so with her last couple, she'll at least have a pretty good idea of where to ice herself, because Danielle just threw 2 down that similar path.
Now, in terms of difficulty on this next shot, depending on what what they decide to do, how difficult is it going to be for them to execute, a good clean shot here?
It's all going to come down to Marianne, really. If she's able to get in, again, her rhythm, her pre-shot ritual, line herself up and have a pretty good release. This shot is a fairly open stone. It's pretty routine for them. Now, it does look like it's curling pretty hard on them, but a little bit of space past that guard. So, again, Marianne's such a consistent curler. She always has been. But in the grand scheme of things, that shot itself, on a scale of 1 to 10, open hit, not one of your hardest shots. Now, this one coming from Julie, a little bit more finesse involved with it, where it is going to be a freeze. We were mentioning earlier, freezes and hit and rolls are two of the hardest shots to throw. They're the most precise. So if this isn't perfect, Marianne will have a way to remove it. And where she's lying for, she can afford to lose that yellow if she needs to blast something out of there. So we have a pretty good crowd here watching tonight for the play downs. Pretty full house out there in the in the lounge watching the games. We mentioned earlier you can come watch here at the Dartmouth Curling Club. Individual draw tickets are $5 a piece, or tournament passes for $30. That'll get you into both the men's and the men's and women's games for the whole event. So started this morning, and that'll carry over right straight through until Sunday's final. Bit of an overcurl there from Julie. She does spill in to be fourth shot, so not really what she was looking for. She was looking to freeze to that yellow and sort of limit Marianne right now. And Marianne's decision here is where to put this next rock that is not going to benefit Julie.
Right.
There are a lot of rocks in play, so Julie does have some outs here. Best way for Marianne to take this away would probably be to block her draw path into the 4-foot area. Setting up for her last shot.
Yeah.
Again, very meticulous with her pre-shot ritual.
I think that speaks to the careful nature of Marianne as a curler, perhaps, or
It really does. Any of the curlers here, really.
Yeah.
Last shot of the end on the way. It's a pretty good spot for that. It doesn't really leave Julie a whole lot of options, especially when it comes to drawing. There's no easy draw path into the 4-foot area. It does look like she's lining up a double tap, an angled tap here to try to raise that blue stone into the 4-foot and hopefully score her single point and not give up the steal here. It's a big shot coming from Julie. And actually with the amount of ice that she's taken, it looks like she might actually be throwing hit weight. So it's a pretty high risk for her. Instead of throwing like a tap weight and making sure that you're going to keep the stone that you're raising in the house, this is hit not at the right angle at all. She could be giving up a really big end here to Marianne.
Ooh. It'll be interesting to see what happens out of this, out of her next shot here. And, again, appears to be lining up very, very carefully here.
This is a big shot for her. rings.
That's my overthrow. Oh no! Oh, it's close. Sit.
Oh, was able to hit. Looks like she might have spilled just too far, but I mean, before that shot happened, Marion was sitting pretty there, allowing a couple points. So to only give up a steal of one on a double angle raise like that, mission accomplished for Julie in the grand scheme of things to not giving up more than just that 1 point. Does put them at a little bit of a disadvantage moving forward there, down by 3. But Julie, Team McEvoy does now have last rock advantage in those even ends, so that could come back to be a big thing for them if they're able to score their 2 here and then limit Marianne to just her single point in the 9th end, take their 2 in the 10th, and then they have to go to an extra end. Again, a lot can happen in the next couple ends. Said this is a game of inches, so one shot here, one shot there, and it's a completely different game.
Yeah, and we're currently here, McEvoy 3 and Team Arsenault is with a score of 6. Just as an update to our viewers.
Once all of our other sheets have finished their 6th or their 7th, then we'll give a quick recap of all the scores for anybody who stayed on with us to watch McEvoy and Arsenault. Looks like most of the other sheets are coming down to their last rocks, so we'll update those scores shortly. First rock of this 8th end coming into the top of the button. Ideal spot for Marianne. We're going to see Julie play probably fairly aggressive this end. They do need to score their 2. Can't really afford being down 3 to blank many ends or to try to hold on to that hammer. They do need to score their points with only 3 ends left and be down those 3. Looks like it's just going to stay out of the rings. It's pretty lucky there for Team McEvoy. If that slides into the rings, it gives Marianne an even bigger advantage because she's able to remove that stone.
Oh, okay, very good. It's gonna be tough, and she's got, she's starting to build that wall. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, the idea here for Julie, get some rocks in front of the house, try to get yourself something to go around, because without protection here, and it's just going to be, Marianne's just going to start hitting things, and she probably will on Jen, like we said, Jen Baxter's first stone. It's probably going to be a peel. She's going to be peeling off one of the corners. You're going to see Julie here trying to put up another corner, make it a little bit higher, give her a chance to get a couple stones around it. The key to this is Marianne is only going to be able to hit 1 stone at a time as long as there's some separation there. So if they can make this guard good, they will have a chance on their next shot to come around the 1 remaining guard. If Marianne peels that one, then they can draw to the open side and then try to make a play on those yellows that Marianne's put in the rings. It's a good looking guard there from Jill. So you're going to have Jen Baxter as Marianne sets up for the peel there, trying to remove those guards, and chances are you're going to see Sheena Moore putting up probably 1, maybe 2 more guards before they make a play to go into the house and try to set something up there.
Yeah, now that rock is moving quite fast from the looks of things there.
Yeah, that's your typical peel weight.
Yeah.
Want to have a little bit more speed on it, so that if you were to hit that guard a little bit thicker than you had hoped, it does still spin out of play. If you're Team Arsenault, you don't want any rocks in front of the house. Anything in front of the house right now, or even really behind the tee line, is just something that will help Team McEvoy try to produce some points in this end. Sheena's first. They are putting up that guard again, hoping for a missed peel from Team Arsenault. Just give themselves something to get some rocks behind. It's an unfortunate miss there. That needed to be above the house. Does give Marianne a chance to hit it and continue her the pile up of yellow that's forming in the center of the house there.
Yeah. Oh no, what's happening down there now?
Might have rolled a little bit too far. No, it's just stayed above the tee line. It is going to give something to Julie to use. She's going to try to tap that back a little bit and start forming that wall of rocks along the back to hopefully have something there to catch her stones or something for Marianne to jam on to hopefully generate her 2 points and try to sort of start her the claw back to get back into the game here.
Absolutely.
Now the key to this is to keep the one that you're tapping in the host. If you tap it too far and move it back too far, it gives Marianne space to remove your blue stone. So moving it back a couple feet just behind the tee line is ideal. Just like that. So might have overcurled a touch from what Julie was hoping for, but it's not really a terrible result. That blue rock is almost fully buried, so it is going to force Marianne to go after the guard, and that'll give Julie a chance to come up with a play and try to separate her blue stones in the house and hopefully get some form of a miss out of Marianne so she can get her multiple score. Removes that guard again. Just pushes that yellow out of the house, which is it's not a bad thing for Team McEvoy. They don't obviously they don't want to build up of yellow.
No.
It does give Julie a chance to freeze down to the one on the top 4 foot. This one will be really hard to remove if they make a perfect freeze here because they won't have access to the left-hand side of the stone. Marianne would only have the portion that's going to be left open here will it's going to cause a jam on the stone that Julie's about to throw if Daniel makes it, or so that Daniel's about to throw. If they make that perfect, see where this ends up.
Well, we'll just have to see where this ends up, I suppose. It looks like a very tight shot.
This one's going to be very precise. If it's even just a couple inches off, it could be dangerous for Team McEvoy.
So that's
good
interesting.
Spot for it. They would have liked it to curl probably another couple inches and be partially behind that yellow guard, because it does. I mean, either way, Marianne would have this short little run back to try to remove it. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, mission accomplished from Team McEvoy. Julie's forced Marianne to play this run instead of just hitting one of the open stones. Oh, and actually my mistake. She didn't play the run. She just played that little hit and roll. It does look like Marianne is just lying the one right now. So Julie will have another shot at moving these stones around, getting them in a better spot for her, and trying to collect some rocks at the back there to maybe get Marianne to jam on.
Yeah, they're watching. Oh. Now it looks like they're calling for timeout here.
Timeout, yeah.
Okay.
So with the timeout, their coach is able to come down onto the ice and give them a little bit of advice here. So you will see.
Yeah, they're coaching
Sorry. probably Mary Matatal. I believe Mary's actually their 5th player, but she can double as a coach as well. So you'll see her out there. And as well, Team Arsenault's coach does get the chance to go out on the ice as well. So both teams, even though the team that's throwing is calling the timeout to kind of get some input from their coach or from their 5th player, there you see Bruce Lonis out there with them.
Yeah, actually, and our mistake. Yeah, Bruce Lonis is actually is actually coaching Team McEvoy.
Yeah, so you see Bruce out there kind of giving his 2 cents. Bruce is also a very, very experienced curler. He's been to many Briars and the World Championship or 2 on his end as well. So definitely we'll say a calming voice when it comes to this situation. Give them his 2 cents, and they can kind of take that and use that the next couple shots.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, to see how this plays out. Now, calling a timeout like that, for strategy, does that indicate that they're concerned about, the way that things could play out, or, just looking for counsel?
It can be a little bit of both. Absolutely looking for counsel. Like, they're in a situation now where Julie probably has a couple potential shots in her mind, and it's kind of playing with which one is more beneficial to them.
Right.
Especially getting into the 8th end here. It is getting down to the last couple ends. They want to make sure that their shot selection is ideal, we'll say. They don't want to that mental game that we were talking about earlier, that chess match.
Right.
You don't want to make a mistake at this point that's going to cost you in the long run. So getting Bruce out there to get his opinion is not a terrible thing. She may be a little bit worried when it comes to how the end is shaping up. That could also be a chance to get everybody together and have a little chat. But 9 times out of 10, when you're calling a timeout, it's more you're stuck strategy-wise than being in a situation where you're really, we'll say, worried about your team at that point.
Now looking at what's going on, currently, what would you say the situation is looking like, for this next shot coming up?
Looks like, I believe Danielle was actually trying to play a little bit of a tap on the blue one. Might have been a little light and a little inside, so not the ideal situation she was looking for. Does leave Marianne with a hit here on the blue. I don't know if she's playing a attempted double. If she did, that blue would probably be jamming on the Yellowstone that's on the button. So she may just be removing this one blue, looking to keep a lot of yellow in the house. And I mean, when you're going to be facing 4 Yellowstones, even though they may not be counting, there's still a lot of yellow rocks in play. So Julie's going to have to be really careful on her shots to make sure that a multiple score doesn't come into play, a multiple point steal for Marianne. Yeah, so she was just removing that one blue. So mission accomplished for her. That's one lonely blue rock in the house right now. So Julie will try to play the tap again, get those rocks in a little bit of a better spot, and ideally roll her shooter off so she doesn't leave a double for Marianne. A Julie for Marianne. That's terrible.
Now it looks like they're they're talking down here very carefully, lining up, assessing their options.
And I mean, when you look at that host right now, there are 5 Yellowstones in the host. So if this shot is not made perfectly, and they leave Marianne a double, after Marianne's next shot, they could be facing 6 on their last, and that is not a good feeling as a skip going up the ice, seeing that many opposition rocks in the host.
No, for sure.
She'll definitely be playing the tap, looking at moving that yellow back a little bit, hopefully getting shot rock out of this. That's the key here. She wants to be lying 1 after she throws this stone.
And here she goes.
Tense moment in this game. Line looks pretty good. She does have a fair bit of weight on it. Oh, looks like they left it a little too late, and they're going to spill off there. not ideal for Julie. It's going to be very, very hard for her to score at this point if Marianne makes the shot. If she's able to make the hit and roll in behind that yellow, the yellow that's on the button is not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, now with the hit and roll being one of the more difficult shots, you know, and you know, given Marianne's experience, you know, do you think this is going to be, you know, extra difficult for Marianne, or is it, you know?
I wouldn't necessarily say extra difficult. She's probably going to want to play, like, she's going to play a half decent hit weight, make sure that rock goes. The roll is secondary. She obviously wants to try to put even more pressure on Julie. If she is able to get that roll in behind, sit right behind that yellow rock, she's almost guaranteed to score unless Julie throws a bullet down there and is able to move some yellows out of the way. But in any shot like this, your goal, your overarching goal, make contact with the one you're throwing at, and the roll is going to be secondary. The last thing you want to do is nose this and potentially leave a catcher for Julie. Looks like she's second guessing their shot choice. She may have got down there, and the Jen Crouse and Jen Baxter may not have liked this decision. So she'll go back down and talk to Christina Black and just reevaluate, take a look again. And 9 times out of 10, when you go back down the ice like this, you go with your original shot. But it's good just they have a little bit of time. They're not pressed for time at all right now. So take those couple extra minutes, take a look at your options again, and make sure that you haven't missed something that you didn't see the first time around.
Precisely, measure twice, cut once.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah. The same premise applies here. And like I said, she's going back to the same shot she had talked about. Even if they've decided to roll out instead, to not leave Julie something that she can use, the key is still to remove this stone so that Julie doesn't have anything else in the house to try to help her here.
Yeah, they're looking a little more confident, you know, from what we can see up here. So.
Yeah, I think the front end is happy with this choice as opposed to leaving something else there for Julie to potentially use to her advantage.
And there she goes.
So again, pretty good hit weight coming from Marianne. Making sure that rock goes first. So that does leave Julie a chance here. There is a pretty difficult. She has the double off the one that Marianne just threw to potentially score her 2 points. It is fairly flat, but it is definitely makeable. There's only a couple feet in between those rocks, so as long as she is able to hit that yellow on the inside, she should be able to squirt the second yellow enough to score her 2. The other option is to hit just a slight piece of the blue rock and spill into the yellow, but that's much harder. So you'll probably see her throw a half-decent hit weight at this, probably like a normal or even like a peel weight, something that's it's going to be moving. She's going to need to move 2 rocks, and one of them's going to be basically moving it sideways, so hitting the side of a rock and trying to squirt it.
Yeah, that certainly sounds like a tough angle and a tough shot to make. You know, very precise.
It is for sure. If you're on the wrong side of the inch on this one, you're going to still be giving up a steal of 1.
Yeah.
No, she's going for the yellow one to the left of the room.
Here she goes. Let's see if this she makes this double.
Yeah, she's on the blue. This is the
She didn't get enough of it, so I actually opted to play the run on the blue curled a little bit much, or a little bit too much, didn't throw enough weight for what she was looking for, and wasn't able to squirt that yellow enough. So Marianne does pick up a steal in the 8th end here. She'll go up 7-3, so she's up 4 in the 9th, which is a pretty good advantage for Marianne. She's going to be sitting pretty, and I don't think you're going to see many rocks in play the next couple ends on Marianne's end. She's going to be trying to keep these ends as open as possible to save her lead there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we had promised some updates on scores from the other sheets. So currently on sheet B, we have Team Breen with a 3-2 lead over Team Ladouceur. They've been trading singles back and forth with a couple blanks there. So Team Ladouceur does have the last rock in the 8th end that's currently going on, down 3-2. On sheet C, we do still have a tie game here. So in the 8th end, we have Team Jones tied with Team McDermott 4-4. A lot of single points in this game as well. There's only been one multiple end. That was from Team McDermott in the second, but Team McDermott does have the last rock right now, so they do have the advantage coming home here in the 8th end. And on sheet E, after the 7th end, we have Team Brothers is slightly ahead of Team Pinckney. It's 5-3 with Pinckney having the hammer in a pretty open end there as well. So updates on all those sheets. And back to our game here, like I mentioned, you're not going to see many rocks in play from Marianne. She's throwing some rocks through just to make sure that there's nothing in play that Team McEvoy can use to her advantage.
So right now it almost seems like, Marianne is, is playing defensively, like, in the sense of basically not leaving herself open.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't want to put any extra rocks in play that you don't have to. If you're Marianne, you want to keep this end as open as possible. The only way that Julie's going to score some points here is by putting up some guards and hoping for a miss from Marianne, because she's not going to have any help from her. She's not going to get any rocks to freeze to, or to tap back, or to draw behind. As Marianne sets up again, like that, where her broom is, that's a sign for a throw through again. So you're going to see Jen Crouse fire this one through the house again.
And it looks like, they were very confident in that.
Those are my favorite shots. You are not going to miss that one. Getting to throw it, nice hit weight at nothing is always a pretty good feeling, especially as a lead.
Yeah, particularly at this point in the game as well, I suppose, with...
Yeah. Those are two good guards from Jill. She kept them pretty even. This one stays outside the house, so it's good. That's a start for them. Marianne's going to start peeling, but again, I have to keep replacing those guards and hope for a miss on one of those. And then when the time comes, you need to make those draws count. They're going to have to get in behind those guards today in this end. It's a good throw from Jen. Even though these shots look simple, peels can sometimes be one of the more difficult shots, because you get in the mindset that they are almost like a given. You just need to throw the rock to the right spot and you throw it hard, but if you're off by a couple inches and you jam that guard there, the advantage goes right back to the opposition.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting.
You need to keep the focus.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it looks like now if I'm not mistaken, they are setting that guard back up again. Is that correct?
They are.
Yeah.
They're going to probably replace that guard at least once more. Probably with Sheena's second, they'll throw another guard up. I think you'll see Danielle, her first, maybe the one that comes in. You have to pick your time. You can't wait too long, because if you wait until Julie's two shots to try to come in, and by chance one of them is missed, then you really have no shot at getting your 2 points. So you have to go in a little bit earlier. For me, I'd probably go in with Danielle's first. They may wait until her second if these peels are made perfectly. It looks like Jen Baxter just made her second peel, so I think for sure you'll see Sheena go up again. And then it'll
Yeah.
be Julie's decision on Danielle's shots if they're going to keep throwing those guards or if they're going to try to pull the play into the house.
She's setting up very carefully here from the looks of things.
These shots are going to be very important. Any of these slide into the house, the chance of them scoring this end is a little bit more slim. So again, even guard, ideal. You don't want it to be much higher than the other one because then you do leave the chance at a double peel.
So the space is intentional then that they're creating.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you group those rocks together, and say Christina was able to make a double peel, you now have no guards. And the chance of you scoring your 2 points without a miss on Marianne's side is almost 0. Another good peel from Christina. So this is the point I was talking about for Julie. Do you put another guard up, or do you decide to bring the play into the house? Try to go around that corner. It does look like she's called for the guard again, so they may wait until Danielle's second.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll keep Marianne, trying to remove the guards and so on and so forth. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're just hoping for one mistake from Marianne. So far, their peels have been made perfectly.
Yeah.
And all it's going to take is the one. If for whatever reason one of these peels is missed and it does jam, or does nose it, then you have your 2 guards that you were looking for, and at that point I would definitely be going in if I was Julie.
So this next shot will be quite important for Marianne.
It will.
assume,
If
yeah.
they're able to peel this cleanly, then I do think you're going to have to make a play into the house very shortly. That peel was made perfectly, so at this point, yeah, you see Julie making the play to go into the house. Can't wait any longer, because if this isn't perfect, you're not going to have another chance to get in behind that guard, because Marianne's just going to peel it off. So
Right.
Danielle needs to get this one in there, give them a chance to split the house on their next one, and try to score their 2. They'll still be down 2 without hammer in the last end, but stranger things have happened in the game of curling, so anything is possible. You just want to get within striking distance. Mine's very good on this, just maybe a little bit heavy. But she stayed around. Mission accomplished. So probably see Marianne just try to peel off that guard. If she is a little bit wide, she'll pick out the back one. Or, I mean, hindsight, or then the reverse mentality. You go after the back one, you play it a little bit tight, and if you over curl, at least you've peeled off the guard and you're not sitting any worse.
It'll be interesting to see what what Marianne does with this.
Well, she is calling the one at the back, and it does make sense. If she's able to remove this, then Julie does only have 2 stones to go back in the house with. If she was to call the peel, and Julie was to split the house, she's pretty much guaranteeing herself her 2 points. By Marianne picking this out, at that point, Julie doesn't have any rocks in the house, so she does have to make her last 2 perfectly in order to score her 2 points.
And no pressure.
Yeah. This isn't a gimme by any means. There is a piece of it open, but it's at least 3/4 buried behind that guard.
Oh.
It was a very nice shot by Marianne. She didn't have much air by that guard. Does pick out that blue stone.
So it looks like she accomplished what she had set out to do.
Absolutely,
there,
she
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And I mean, even her plan B in that situation, picking off the guard, is not a terrible plan B.
No.
But at this point, Julie definitely needs to get this buried behind that guard. She can't leave any of it exposed, otherwise Marianne will have the exact same shot she just threw, and then Julie will be the maximum Julie can take is 1. And I mean, taking one at this point, giving up hammer, being down 3 is not where you want to be sitting going into the 10th end.
No, absolutely not from the sounds of it.
No. Let's see what Julie does with this one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're staying quite close there.
Haven't put a brush down to this, so they may feel like it is a little bit heavy. It's the same slide that Danielle had, the same path Danielle had, so.
Oh.
And it was a little bit heavy. Christina was able to get that through, so I mean, at this point, I don't think you'll see Marianne drawing behind that corner. She wants to pull play back to the middle. She's going to want to force Julie to make a decision. Either you take your point and go down 3, or you do take the blank and hope that you're able to come up with a way of getting 4 points in the 10th end.
That certainly does not sound like a situation that Julie wants to be in. And
no, it's not ideal
no.
by any means. It actually does look like Marianne's going around that corner, so she may be trying to force Julie to take her point, give herself the hammer in the 10th end.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see if if that plays out in Marianne's favor.
Marianne can't really hurt herself here. The only way to really hurt herself is if it was a bad throw, she was inside and tapped that blue one up. But really, even if she was to throw through here, the most Julie's going to be able to get in this end is the 1. There would be a very, very, very difficult split on the guard, but it looks like it's too far out in front of the host, and the angle's just not right to make that. Marianne's trying to put the pressure on here. It's amazing to see the difference in the curl from having a pretty good T-line weight to the weight that Julie threw on her last one, being that little bit heavy. Just didn't get the finish she was hoping for on her first one. So Julie will be forced to play the open draw. She does need to be full 8 foot to score her point. She will be down 3 going into the 10th end, and she'll have a little bit of a task ahead of her, but like we said before, anything is possible in this game, so both teams will still have to make their shots in the last end to
get the results.
Exactly, yeah. Pretty good sign. Just don't seem to be overly hard at this rock, so it's an easy sweep into the host to the full 8. Right to the button there. Great weight by Julie. They did score their 1, so they are down by 3, 7-4, heading into the 10th end.
Yep. So now, in order to close that gap, they would need to play, very strategically. Is that correct?
They will, and I mean, when you're in a game like this, where to score more than 2, you are going to need a little bit of help from the other team. So they are going to probably rely on 1 miss from Marianne, just 1. That's all it would take to bring 3 into play. In the perfect world, that's all it really will take for them. But if Marianne plays and then like she just did, and their team makes their peels the way that they made them in the last end, it's going to be pretty hard for McEvoy to get their 3. And the key here is with only 8 rocks per team, once Marianne is able to start hitting, at that point, there's only so many places you can put those rocks before you're out of stones.
Yeah.
So you're going to see probably two center guards go up right away. One will be really tight, and the other one will be a lot higher just to get some separation. Keep Marianne from having some form of a double peel on them. So let's do the tight one. Stop just in time, so it's ideal for them.
Marianne sizing that up currently from the looks of it.
She is. Now this is one of the hardest shots in the game. It is the tick shot. So their goal right now is she's trying to move this guard out of the way without removing it from play.
Oh my goodness.
If she removes it from play, then the blue rock's going to go back to where it was. Just like she's going to hit more of this than she was hoping for. So if you're Team McEvoy, you're not upset with that because it does still leave you with the guard. You're able to put your second guard up, and you now do already have one in the house. So that right there does give Team McEvoy a little bit of an advantage. They do still need to capitalize on it to score their 3. There's still a lot more rocks to come, but it's, if you're looking for, like we said, for some help from Team Arsenault, that would have been it. By the looks of this one's a little bit heavier than they want. They want as much separation between those rocks as possible. And they also want it right in front of the yellow because Marianne is able to remove her own.
Yeah.
So she's going to be able to run that yellow straight back and try to remove the blue. And if she does that, the advantage that Julie McEvoy's team had from that little mistake from Jen Kroos is now gone.
Yeah, and it looks like that's what Marianne's lined up precisely to do.
A little bit outside, so it's just peeled out the yellow, which is still fine. Less rocks in play if you're Marianne is a good thing. Julie's going to be replacing it, so she's probably going to put this one as high as possible, where that other center guard is. It's not as tight as she'd like, but it's still usable.
Very good. You can see the focus that she's lining this up with here.
These last shots are pretty important for both teams, really, but specifically for Team McEvoy, where they're trying to steal 3 here. I think that's a little bit too far, a little farther than she was hoping for, so it does leave Marianne the chance at a double here. Primary goal, just make one go away. If you get the double, that's an added bonus. And just like that, those two blue are gone. So the next couple stones coming from Team McEvoy, they're going to need to make these count because they only have 5 stones left. They do need to score 3 in order to tie this game up. So this one when the pressure kind of turns on.
Yeah, you can see the pressure down on the ice right now. You know.
The other thing to keep in mind is neither of these teams wants to start out 0-2.
No.
It is a long week, so even if you have a bad first day, there is that chance to still bounce back. The competition here, the caliber of these teams is top notch. So starting out with a couple losses on your first day, not really where you want to be. But we have seen crazier in the past. There's been other teams that have had a slow start. Once you figure out the ice and figure out the stones and get in your rhythm, you're able to bounce back sometimes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now Marianne's lining up here.
She's going to be trying to double peel here. She's going to try to hit on the screen just the right side of that top blue. Her shooter should spill off to the side, and then ideally she's going to remove the 2 blue stones and open up the house even more so that there's nothing there for Julie to draw behind. She's she did remove both blue. Does leave that guard there, so it does give Julie just something to draw behind. Still a nice shot from Jen, though. The benefit right now for Marianne is both of those cards, there's no overlap between them. So, or overlap on them. So even if Julie is able to fully bury this, if Danielle's able to get behind those guards and fully bury behind, she will have a short little run back on the right yellow that she'll be able to run that in and try to pick out the blue rock and again eliminate another stone that could be a counter. At this point here, Marianne's probably feeling pretty confident. Even on her next one, if this is made perfectly and she decides not to play that little run, she'll still have a peel on the front and an open host to hit at.
Right.
With hers, at least. So Hafty's the spot. It did the job, so Marianne is going to go out and peel off that front yellow. She may even try to run it straight back just to eliminate something else, even if it picks out the other yellow, or straight back onto the blue. Both are good options for her. Again, just removing other stones. Let's just play this straight peel, I believe, by Christina's release. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what would Team McEvoy's strategy be here, just to make the most of what's what's happening? Is it, is there a make the most of what's happening right now at this point?
There is. At this point, you
yeah.
still want to make your last couple shots, go out on a high. They do, I believe she's trying to almost make a little bit of an overlap for all three. Try to get a piece of this berry behind the yellow and make it harder for Marianne to remove them. Leave something out front for her to maybe crash on. Again, with the front being very open and getting down to only having, once this one comes to rest, only 2 stones left for Team McEvoy. It's looking a little grim. So with that one coming where it did, that little bit of separation, Christina does have a double here. If she does make it and remove both of them, then she will have run Team McEvoy out of stones. They would only have 2 left, and they need to score 3. So if they make this double.
Now, in terms of difficulty, is that a particularly difficult shot?
It all really depends. I mean, your mentality for each shot stays the same. Your skip's going to tell you what weight you want to throw, and your goal is just to hit the broom. So, as long as the skip's icing you properly, and you release it at the broom the way that the skip is hoping for, then every shot is, the mentality there is the same. You approach each one the same. You just want to set up and release to the broom.
Yeah. So many different factors at play in order to set up, the ideal shot.
They're very much are, yeah. So here you're going to see, again, try a little bit of overlap between the 3. She's probably going to try to keep this top 4 partially buried behind the guard that is there. And on Marianne, she's just going to try to make one of them go away. Just doesn't look like it wants to curl for her. So right on top of the other one. So Marianne will just need to make one of these stones disappear. She'll pick up the win.
Again, we see that final ritual there.
Of all the shots in Marianne's mind, this one is the most important. It's pretty good there. So she was able to make that. Like I said, she has run Team McEvoy out of rocks. So Team Arsenault will pick up the win here. You do see them pumping arms, so in an event like this, if anybody is sick, you don't want to be shaking hands and passing around your germs.
Oh
So
my
it's
goodness,
normally
absolutely.
fist pumps or arm bumps just to say good game. And so Team Arsenault does pick up the win there in the 10th end. On behalf of myself and Lisa, we do want to thank you for being with us today at the 2018 Nova Scotia Scotties Tournament of Hearts. And we do hope that you tune into some of the other games for both the men's and the women's events, brought to you here by Scotties and Deloitte and our partner Bell 5 TV1.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. Have a great evening.